So before we get to the actual topic of this video, I just want to mention that I'm using a new web camera. So this is a new 1080p webcam that I got with some of the Patreon donations. So with those donations, I'm trying to elevate the video quality of this channel. Of course, you're not seeing any of that because I'm just suspended in the circle with a gray background and it looks very strange. I'm in this aether, but rest assured everything should be better with the white balance flickering issue. And in general, hopefully this is a bit better than what I was rocking before. But what I actually want to talk about in this video has nothing to do with webcams, so we're going to take that topic and just brush it aside and never mention it again. So what I wanted to talk about is my new venture as a 3D artist, I guess is what you can say. And it's always kind of weird calling yourself a 3D artist, at least for me. I don't like giving myself that name, because when I think of a 3D artist, I'm thinking of somebody working at ILM or some other big company that's doing Hollywood movies, and I look at their talents and then I look at my own, and I'm not a 3D artist if they are. At least that's what's going on in my head. But by all definitions, I think I'm a 3D artist, and chances are if you're watching this video, you're also a 3D artist. And let me just try to build up to my point here. So I'm definitely a 3D artist, and I think you'd also have to agree, especially if you watch the videos on this channel, by all definitions, I'm a tutorial maker as well. And I think you'd probably classify me as a Blender exclusive tutorial maker, which is pretty accurate considering that 99.9% of my videos are actually exclusively in Blender. But yeah, the point is I'm definitely a tutorial maker and I'm definitely a 3D artist, but those two things, even though they seem heavily related, don't really overlap that much, at least with me. So I'm always working on side projects as a 3D artist. It's important that you're always working on your own projects and not just always watching tutorials. That's just something important to know. But with those side projects, I'm not necessarily taking those lessons and turning them into tutorials. Again, these things are entirely separate. So as a tutorial maker, what I like to do is I look at the Blender community, see if a topic's been covered. If it hasn't, I make a tutorial, and if it hasn't been covered well, then I also make a tutorial. And the point of this is that there's a disconnect between what I make tutorials on and what I'm actually working on myself. So even though I make a lot of tutorials about shader nodes nowadays and also animation nodes, I'm definitely using those skills, but not all the time. I'm definitely doing motion tracking, but in general, I'm not always working on what I'm making tutorials of. And with this video, I actually want to introduce what my next side project is. So whatever I'm about to introduce, I'm going to keep it a mystery for now. It's not going to affect any of the Blender tutorials. I'm still going to make tutorials. This is just unrelated. So lately I've been interested in Houdini. So let me just switch the screen here. Yeah, there we go. So now we are seeing Houdini, and if you don't know what Houdini is, it's this 3D program that focuses entirely on proceduralism and coding and simulations like fluid and smoke and stuff like that. And it's a big departure from software like Blender, 3ds Max, Maya, Cinema 4D. It's entirely different because everything you're doing here is very technical and has to do with nodes, and it's just something that I've been interested in recently, and I'm actually looking for tutorials on YouTube myself, which is always strange because as a tutorial maker, I'm always judging the tutorial saying, is this a good presentation? How good is their explanation? So sometimes I'm not actually focusing on the content, but more so on how they're delivering the content. But the point is I'm trying to learn Houdini, which is entirely new to me, and I really don't know how any of the software works. I know how to rotate, how to zoom, how to pan, and stuff like that. So for the people who are learning Blender with my channel, I relate to you. I understand how difficult it is to just jump into something, but this is just something I wanted to tell you guys about. And if any of you guys actually know Houdini or know a very good tutorial series or somebody who teaches it very well, please leave a link in the comments because I'm looking for good resources and I haven't found anything that I personally like yet. But yeah, I'm looking for resources for Houdini. Again, this isn't interrupting with any of my Blender tutorials, but it does touch on the idea of always learning as a 3D artist. I really believe that as a 3D artist, again, I'm a 3D artist and most likely you're a 3D artist by all definitions, I think it's very important that we're always learning. So even if you're a specialist in sculpting, let's say you know how to sculpt, you need to make sure that you also know how to do the UV unwrapping for your sculpt and also how to texture paint that, because if you're just making sculptures, what's the point really? Yeah, maybe you're very good at it, but you don't know how the workflow goes in general. So for me, this is my next step as a 3D artist. This is just what I'm interested in learning, but I just wanted to kind of relay this message that no matter how many tutorials you watch, make sure that you're trying stuff yourself, that you always have side projects. In general, you should always be working on something or tinkering with something, and try to make sure that that you're not limiting your scope to only one discipline. So again, that story of the sculptor who doesn't know how to do anything else, make sure you're not that sculptor. Nobody wants to be that person. And in Blender specifically, this is very easy to do because there's so much you can learn. You can learn about sculpting, modeling, animation, motion tracking, scripting, the whole nine. So really, I don't know what this video was about besides saying that I'm actually trying to learn Houdini and asking for resources, but I thought that I'd just make this face-to-face, more like face to thousands of faces video, because I don't only want to release tutorials on this channel, I also enjoy these kinds of videos where I'm just talking about what I'm interested in personally. And don't get it wrong, I do like shader nodes, I do like animation nodes and whatever else I'm working on, but it's not what I'm thinking about 24/7. So like I said, there's this distinction between 3D artist and tutorial maker that I don't know how many of you can resonate with, because I don't know if you're making tutorials, but it's just something I thought I'd mention and touch on. So in a couple months, if I somehow learn Houdini, which I don't know if a couple months is enough, I hear it's very hard and might take years, but if at some point I actually feel like I know this software, I'll make sure to come back and actually teach it myself, do a CGMatter style tutorial, because I think Houdini is really lacking in resources from what I've seen so far. Again, maybe you can comment a link below and prove me otherwise, because I hope I'm wrong with this, because I do want a good tutorial series, but maybe I'll eventually come back and make a tutorial series on Houdini. Again, this is not affecting the Blender series, I just want to say that over and over and over again so that nobody gets it misconstrued. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to talk about. Thank you guys for watching these videos and my tutorials, and for commenting, for subscribing, all these things. I really appreciate it. And especially I want to thank the patrons over at Patreon for donating their money to fund tutorials like these. Not that this video particularly is a tutorial, but again, thank you for funding these tutorials. The most recent thing I got, like I said, is this webcam, which I said I wouldn't mention again. So obviously I'm very grateful for your donations, and yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial, and yeah, bye-bye.